What up, guys? This is your boy, Walt Beezy Baby, and I am here with the inevitable Ace Austin. Pleasure to be in this interview with you. First question I had for you. I know you've been wrestling for about 6 years now, correct?
Yeah, just over 6.
All right. Starting off early in your career, talk to us a little bit about your IWA Mid-South years.
Oh, IWA Mid-South. Well, I know when I first started traveling out to the Midwest in like 2017, first time I went out there, it was for like a week-long loop, and it was like a Rockstar Wednesday, IWA Mid-South Thursday, and then a Rockstar show Friday, and then some Saturday show after that. But yeah, I got to do a match then, and it was great. It was the environment was pretty, it was unlike anything I'd experienced out in the East Coast for sure. And then when I started spending more time in the Midwest, IWA Mid-South was of course a regular thing, because it was part of the loop that everybody that was moving to the Midwest at the time would do. It was kind of the same thing. Everybody would try to get on those shows. So it was really just like a locker room full of super young guys, and of course the veterans. But it was just like all of us young guys were really just kind of fighting for spots, at that time. And yeah, I made some great friends and great memories. I had a pretty short run there because I took off pretty quickly and didn't really spend too much time there. But yeah, it's cool. When they changed venues, I was there when they were at their first venue, and they changed venues. So I was a part of like 2 different kind of things. So that was cool. Yeah.
I was wondering who was some of the people you wrestled while you were there.
Mostly, like I said, younger guys like Cole Radrick, like Kevin Giza. Trying to think, I wasn't in any of the TPI tournaments or anything like that. A lot of scrambles. I know I did a pretty crazy ladder match one time with again, Cole Radrick was in it, and Marcus Everett, and man, who else? There had to have been like 10 people in the ladder match. It was insane. But yeah, mostly just young guy. I never had like any kind of like big match there.
Fair enough. Talk to us about your big blockbuster match with Eddie matches with Eddie Edwards, and that feud you guys had over his wife, Alicia Edwards. That's personally one of my favorite things you've done, my friend.
That getting to do that stuff with Eddie was like, I mean, if you think about it, the main reason that I antagonized Eddie in the first place was because like he is, they call him like the cornerstone of Impact Wrestling, right? They call him like like the heart and soul. So what better way for me to like get right into the fire when I was starting with Impact than to go after a guy like Eddie, right? It only makes sense. So I learned a lot. I got what I needed out of that whole feud, and yeah, and it definitely created some classic moments that I think are gonna live forever, in my opinion.
And I truly believe the name Ace Austin is going to live forever. I can see it already. Talk to us. How did you get the name Ace Austin?
I came up with the kind of the character concept for Ace way back, like when I was in like 4th grade, probably. I think it really started because when I used to play the video games, I'd always put tattoos on my character, and I'd always put the 4 cards on the left shoulder, which is what I actually have tattooed on me now. But it was just like, I don't know why I did it. It was just one of those things that I always did. So I remember just thinking about that common thing on all of my video game characters. And then when I was a young kid, I thought about like this like tag team idea. I was like, oh, me and my best friend at the time, as a kid, I got into wrestling. I was like, we'll be a tag team. We'll be the Ace of Spades. So I was like, I'll be Ace and he'll be Spade. That's a great idea, right? So it started with that and I just never let that go. I started naming the character Ace in the games. And then Ace Austin kind of just rolls off the tongue real easy. It's alphabetical, puts me at the top of most lists. So, that's it just grew from there. When I started training at like 17 is when I kind of started to really put like something real behind it. It was more than just like this silly idea, you know what I mean? I really started coming up with a way to make it translate into an actual, something, and it's evolved ever since. I could not have imagined it ending up like this way.
Hell yeah. What would you say would be the absolute funniest blunder since you've been a wrestler in the ring, as far as a mistake, botch, however you want to talk about that?
Probably when we were taping, we were taping for Impact in front of a crowd in Vegas, and it was one of those matches with Eddie, actually, and he drives me into the post with my legs, and it ripped straight through my pants. And I felt it. I felt the rip happen immediately, and like, we're surrounded by people. So I was like, what am I gonna do if like my stuff slips out? I was freaking out. So I had to just like, if you watch it, you can see I'm doing a lot of like moving around for a few minutes with my legs like closed. Like all the moving that I'm doing, my legs are completely closed because I'm trying to figure out like what to do. And then I created a moment in the match where the cameras were off of me and they were on Eddie. And then I took that opportunity to fix it basically. So I had to like roll my pants up so it would like cover the hole, and it was a nightmare. And it was like the first time I wrestled in jeans too. So it was like, yeah, it was insane.
Speaking of insane, unique, and bizarre, what is the most, I'd say, unique venue you've been in your whole time as a wrestler so far? Like, just one building that you're like, wow, never thought they'd have a wrestling show here.
Wow, that's a tough one. I've wrestled 6 years. I've wrestled 655 matches as of this interview, 656 tonight. For well over 120 promotions. So I wrestled in 26 states, 4 countries. I've been in countless venues, man, hundreds of buildings. I
guess a list of like top 3 or 5 since there's some.
Yeah, I mean, so are we talking like you said there shouldn't be a wrestling show, or like venues that were really cool
and they somehow were able to make it happen? Something like
that. Definitely, like there's been some like bar shows that I've been on where it's just like insane, like the ring's like jammed right up against the bar, and it's like it doesn't make sense how there's just like people around. Or some like dojos too, some like training dojos. Sometimes the rings are just in these ridiculously tight spaces, and they try to fit fans in that are like standing up against the wall, banging on the ring. It's insane. Yeah. So probably like definitely bar venues, a lot of bar venues, and a lot of like a lot of dojo training facility venues are like that.
Speaking of bar, you've reached the bar of TNA / Impact Wrestling X Division champion on is it 2 or 3 occasions now?
2 times.
All right. Talk to us a little bit about your favorite memories as X Division champion.
Just becoming X Division champion itself was an incredibly fulfilling thing for me. I've always been a fan of the ladder match. I've always been a ladder match kind of guy. And Jeff Hardy's, of course, always been one of my favorites. So I always imagined myself, growing up as a kid, wrestling in my living room. I always pretended it was a ladder match. I always loved the idea of being able to have that moment, on top of the ladder like that. So getting to do that, Bound for Glory 2019, when I first became X Division champion, sold out a Chicago crowd, and it was the first like legit ladder match I'd ever been in. Any other ladder match I had done before that were like on indie shows and stuff like that. So it was like the first like real ladder match, professional style ladder match. It was crazy. And yeah, so getting to have that moment of pulling the belt down and getting my beauty shot right in the camera, and holding the belt high, for my first like major television product championship. It was a really huge stepping point for my career, and like I said, incredibly fulfilling personally. The match was great. I think my gear looked awesome. Like it just couldn't have been better, really, right there. And it really propelled me forward in a way that, obviously, like now, it was a huge stepping point for sure.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, the AEW partnership with Impact, who are you wanting to face still?
I know like Twitter is really wanting to see me and Sammy Guevara, so of course that has to happen sometime. And then Pac, I think, would be like just the ultimate test of my own physical ability, and man, who else? People want to see me in Darby too. I wrestled Darby once before, so that was awesome. There's Matt Hardy, of course. Those always, I mean, they've got so many good guys, and there's so many people in Impact that I still haven't faced yet either. There's just so many matches that are still, to come. We've got so much in store.
Without a doubt. What would be your favorite beer and your favorite meal after a match on the road?
Favorite meal after a match on the road. Okay, I love Denny's. I'm a big fan of Denny's, of the breakfast options at Denny's. When I was spending a lot of time coming up in Pennsylvania in my first couple of years, that was like a common thing for those PA shows. All the boys would go to Denny's afterwards, So what is it called? The Grand Slamwich it goes hard. And as far as beer goes, I'm not super into heavy beer tasting beers. I like my beer to not taste like beer. So I go with seltzers, of course. I'm a seltzer guy. I like to obviously watch my figure. So, yeah.
You're a lean, mean machine, without a doubt. All right, and here's the part of the interview I like to call Story Time with Five. And I have 5 names. Just go ahead and talk about them as much as you would like. First one I got for you, the ultimate finesser, Chris Bay.
Bay was one of those guys that we interacted very little on like social media kind of before we met, and our paths didn't cross early on because he was a West Coast guy, and I had never made my way out to the West Coast yet. So when we finally did get to meet each other, it was awesome. It was kind of just like it was definitely a mutual respect thing. We both were like young, hungry guys. My first set of tapings after Impact signed me was in Vegas. And he lives in Vegas, so I think he might have been at those first ones, trying to earn a spot, help out, that sort of thing. And then we did a set of tapings in California, and I did an explosion match with Bay. They were giving him a match to kind of look at him, and it was against me, and it was an awesome match. So that was really cool. So getting to see them sign him and kind of bring him in, and then getting to like work with him and kind of like help elevate him the way that I had been elevated by the X Division was really just like a total process. So I think Bay is he's a great guy, and our competitive nature is always going to get the better of our friendship, if you would call it that, right? We got to compete, and we're both willing to do whatever we got to do.
Alrighty, all ego, Ethan Page.
Page is amazing. Page, just his mind, he's such a brilliant mind, and always gives such great advice, for sure. And then it's just really cool to hang out with too, just in general. Working with him up at Alpha One in Canada has always been a blast. I will have a permanent memory of Alpha One forever because I got this scar on my face from a ladder match I did up there. Yeah, it was amazing to get to just like spend some time with him in the Indies, but getting to be in the Impact locker room with him was even better because like I said, I don't think I would have really been able to get as close to him and be friends with him the way that I would have if not for Impact. So that was great. So yeah, I think he works hard and he knows what he's doing. He really is like, just has figured his own thing out, and it's amazing.
His transformation over the summer was truly something to behold. Iron Demon Shane Mercer.
Wow, Shane Mercer's definitely one of the most eccentric characters I've ever met in my life. Those IWA Mid-South days we talked about earlier, a lot of Shane Mercer back in those days, and he's just one of the craziest people I've ever met. Like just the way that he acts as a human being is so absurd. You really wouldn't. He's a total like comic book character or movie character or whatever. He's a character for sure. And obviously just subhuman strength. It just doesn't make sense how strong that man is. What else? I actually had probably my favorite match at IWA Mid-South that I ever had involved Shane Mercer. I think it was a tag match. But yeah, he was in that match. So yeah.
Shane's a tremendous dude. Actually got to interview him last month, and it's awesome to be able to get you here too. Gallows and Anderson.
I think that it as unfortunate as not becoming world champion at Slammiversary was, getting to go from the highest point of my career, being that Slammiversary match, getting to go from that right into working with the Good Brothers was like, man, it was perfect. It was a perfect way to kind of just get back on track with like just get my mind right, because it was devastating to lose that world title match. So yeah, they're another bunch of characters, man. They've been doing this for so long. It's impossible for them to not be, the way that they are. It's like they're the good the whole brother thing is like is really just it's a totally their like it's their gimmick for a reason. It just makes sense. They really are like good brother kind of guys, and everything they do in the locker room is so reflective of that, and the way that they push their merch and the way they plug all their stuff, and it's a
they always know how to make you laugh, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely know how to make you laugh, and they're it's another guys that working with them can only elevate you. So getting to work with them, it was it was a great progression. And of course, I'm compared to AJ so much that their relationship with AJ, getting to work with them just by proxy, kind of like was a really like cool thing.
Tremendous matches, thoroughly enjoyed them. And then finally for the story time, Scott D'Amore.
He's the boss man, so I can only say nice things, right? No, Scott's amazing. I am so glad that I chose Impact as my starting point in 2018. I had options in front of me, but Impact just made sense as the first step. And working for Scott has been incredible. He is so, he's intimidating because he is he's a man in charge, right? But he doesn't try to intimidate you, which is so amazing. It's great to work with somebody like that who doesn't try to make you feel uncomfortable or anything like that. And I'm glad that he's put the kind of faith in me that he has. He's tested me out. He's kept his eye on me, and I feel like I've proven every time what I'm capable of, and I'm one of the guys that are looking to carry the torch of Impact Wrestling. So like I had to prove that. So getting to have those kind of conversations with him after all of those big opportunities has been amazing, and everything we do on screen together is a lot of fun too. He's really awesome. He's really great to interact with on screen.
He's a jolly man, without a doubt. Now, let's talk about something you actually brought to light in your last interview with Chris Van Vliet. You revealed you've been with Hot Topic for several years off and on. Talk to us about some of the more interesting things you've seen there as a shopper and then later as an employee.
Not off and on. I've worked for the company for 10 years consecutively. The only time like off that I've had are if I do like tours. Like when I toured Mexico for like, you know, a month at a time or whatever, I would obviously have to take off work for like that. But I've been an employee with the same employee number, with the same like payroll information, like all that for 10 years now. The end of May was 10 years, or March. The end of March was 10 years. Yeah. But yeah, working there has been. I got the job there when I was 14, so it was like a huge dose of like of responsibility, you know, and it really helped teach me as a young man a lot about like, you know, handling my own stuff, about handling my own job. Like I had to worry about, you know, this job that I had, and the job wasn't, you know, crazy difficult or anything, but it was a good trade to learn. Like working in retail really helped me out later with like just being a businessman, just myself. Like I'm my own brand, I'm my own business, and working for Hot Topic helped me see how brands kind of push their stuff and how brands are created and how, you know, a whole bunch of things. So and of course it's where I made the little money that I had to start training and everything, you know, and the rest came from my lovely grandmother who always supported me everywhere that I needed. But working there at like 14, it was crazy because it was like, of course, all the other 14, 15-year-olds hung out at the mall, right? So like that's how I met kids from different schools, you know, for the first time, pretty much. It was like, because I didn't go to football games or anything like that when I was in school. So working at the mall, it was like I'd meet these kids from other schools that were coming to the mall and hang out. And of course the girls, you know, it was like, it was the best way to like meet girls when I was a young teenager like that. Girls would come in and drop their number on me all the time. And then I'd get off my shift and like go walk around the mall with these girls and stuff. So I've definitely seen a fair share. I mean, of course, not only working in retail, but working at a store like Hot Topic, you're gonna see just such a wide variety of people. You're gonna see like the people that are buying stuff for their kids, and then you're gonna see like the kids that are buying stuff for themselves, that are getting into like their own stuff, so they're wearing all kinds of just crazy stuff, just trying to figure out their identities, you know. Just the dynamic of working there when I myself was a young kid trying to figure out who I was, and then now seeing these kids now, like it's just a whole like process. And because I've been working there for so long, it's almost like I'm treated with such a great deal of respect from like my coworkers and my bosses and everything. It's really like nothing but a supportive environment. Yeah, I mean, our customers are always great. We do get some weird people, of course, but I've seen people get like tased and stuff in the mall, which is always crazy to watch stuff like that happen, and shoplifters and all that nonsense. So.
Definitely a blunder for sure. Any funny Black Friday stories from your time there?
I wouldn't say a funny Black Friday story, but a Black Friday story that I don't think I've ever told in an interview. It just never came up. But I'm glad you asked me that question. So yeah, this is the first time ever talking about this. I almost died on a Black Friday in November of 2014. And that was before I stepped in the ring as a pro wrestler. I'd been training, but it was before I debuted. So if I'd have died that night, none of this would have ever happened. So yeah, I was on my way to Hot Topic to work a Black Friday shift, November of 2014, and this was back in Pennsylvania when I lived in Pennsylvania. I was wearing my like DIY Spider-Man costume because we always like dressed up on Black Friday. We always had like themes. We always wear crazy stuff. So I dressed up in my Spider-Man costume, but Hot Topic has these like Black Friday shirts that they want you to wear. So I had my Black Friday shirt over my Spider-Man costume, and I'm on my way to work, and I always took these like back roads that got me to the mall real quick. And you get to this like right turn, and then the right turn goes down this like kind of steep hill, and then it goes up, curves, and then the road like does a little zigzag, and it takes you straight to the mall. So I go down this hill, and I start coming up at this curve right at the top of the hill here, and I don't know if it was like ice or really like maybe it was just the car, because the car was really old and had over 200,000 miles on it. I have no idea really what happened, but my car started like skidding off the road I was turning the wheel, but the car was like sliding straight. So I hit this embankment. There was this like hill embankment sort of thing that was there to protect the house that was right at the top of the hill there from exactly what was happening from a car fucking heading straight into the thing. But my car slides straight and it hits this hill at an angle. The car goes up in the air, flips, and lands upside down, facing the opposite direction. So it did like a flip and a 180 and just smashed onto the ground with me inside of it. So I can tell you what I remember from it is the skidding forward and then hitting the hill. And I remember pushing back against the steering wheel so I wouldn't hit my face. So I pushed against the steering wheel and the bushes that were right there like hit the windshield. So it just like covered the car pretty much. And I felt myself like lift out of my seat and I closed my eyes and I just curled up in a ball like this. And the next thing I remember is just hearing like a rush of sounds. I didn't feel anything. I just heard all these sounds. I heard glass shattering. I heard like metal on concrete and just all these disgusting noises. And then I opened my eyes and the whole world was upside down. I had like the floor mat dangling in my face. I had stuff from the back seat just kind of like peppered everywhere. And I was very confusing, obviously, because everything was upside down. So I grabbed the frame of the window and I pull myself out and I stand up and I look at this car and it was just disbelief. Like literally the only thing that happened to me, there's like a scratch on the back of my hand. You can barely even see the scar from it. That was it. I was inside the car when it landed upside down. So, I mean, the rest is like a much longer story, you know. I couldn't find my phone, so I had to flag down a car. When a car finally came, they took me to like the hospital, and just to check me out and everything, and like everything was fine. I didn't cry until like my mom and my grandmother got to the hospital. That's when it was really like a scary moment, you know, because like that could have been it, you know, before I got to do anything, before I got to ever fulfill my dreams or make my grandmother proud, you know, that could have been it right there. So it was definitely still to this. I've been in a lot of car accidents and weird like things with cars in my life, but still to this day, that first one is probably the most insane thing I've ever been through. Was just a Black Friday in 2014, and I made it to my shift the next morning.
Wow.
Yeah, I worked. It was a double. When you do Black Friday shifts, you have to work double shifts. So you work like a nighttime shift because the malls are open all night, and then you get to go home, sleep for a couple hours, come back and work the next day a little bit. So I made it for my next day, my next morning shift. I just had to miss that other shift, obviously. And I was back at training the following week, and like kept the ball rolling, and so it's.
You are nothing short of a miracle, sir. That definitely wasn't the turn I expected us to take, if you will. Speaking of turns, tomorrow you mentioned you're going to Jeffersonville, Indiana. A match that you had not too far from there little over a year ago, last year in Louisville, was with Tessa Blanchard and OVW. Talk to us about that.
That match was another like a huge like benchmark match for my Impact career. I feel it was the height of my feud with Tessa as X Division champion, and her the world champion, obviously. So the whole champion versus champion dynamic was amazing, and it couldn't have come at a better time because that's when I was doing all my stuff with the women, with the whole gimmick. So it all really fell into place perfectly, and I think it was one of those opportunities where I had to step up and like prove that I was ready for the main event, because we main evented the show. It was an Impact special, an app pay-per-view. And I got to main event it, and it happening at the OVW arena was another like just really cool aspect of the match itself, because it's a legendary arena, and everything about it was. And I think the match, like the story we told, everything we did was so amazing, and the finish was some of my best work personally. And what else? And that match set up for amazing things going forward. So.
Definitely one of my personal favorites. And speaking of personal favorites, what has been your personal favorite match you've seen while working a show?
Match that I've seen?
Yeah.
Man. Well, I've been there live for quite a few pretty crazy things. I think getting to see the return of Ultimate X when they did that for the Homecoming pay-per-view, that was like before, I think that was right before I started, so I didn't get to be like on that pay-per-view, but they invited me to the pay-per-view to be there and watch it and everything. So watching the return of Ultimate X was really, really cool. And besides that, man, I mean, I think some of the most unique matches I've ever seen came from Pro Wrestling Revolver when Sammy was running Pro Wrestling Revolver, and he still plans on bringing it back, of course, when all this is done. But his first couple of Revolver shows out in Iowa were insane. Just the dream matches you could see on there between like Morrison and Ricochet and Brian Cage and like all those guys who were so big coming up at the time, and now all those guys are on TV. Strickland, you know, all those guys. So it's amazing.
I just got a couple more here for you. Best party story that you have?
Best party story. Let's see. I've only been blackout drunk probably like twice in my life. I'm usually really good with my limits. But one of them was when I was a younger, teenager, whatever. It was a New Year's Eve party. I remember going to my buddy's house and we drank and we played some Pong and whatever. And I remember going behind, there was a crap ton of kids there, so we all just kind of slept wherever. So I remember going behind the dining room table where I had my backpack and everything set up. And I remember sitting on the ground and I'm like, I'm kind of tired. I think I'm just going to call it a night, And I laid down to go to sleep. And I thought I went to sleep, And then a couple of weeks later, I run into one of my buddies at the grocery store, of all places, and he's like, hey man, New Year's Eve was fun, ha ha ha, whatever. And I was like, you weren't there. You weren't at the party. And he's like, yeah, I was. I got there 1:30 in the morning. I was like, I was asleep before 1:30. And he was like, no, you weren't. He's like, when I walked in the door, you were ready with shots, dude. I was like, you're kidding. So there's a whole night after I thought I went to sleep where I punched a hole in the ceiling while we were playing Pong. I jumped up and punched the ceiling. We used to climb on top of his roof all the time, so we were screwing around up there. Man, there's I have a whole Snapchat story saved from that night too of everything after that, and it was a lot of fun. He lived in a really isolated area, so we got wild out there a lot just because. We couldn't harm nobody. We were just hanging out by ourselves. We did bonfires and everything. So, yeah, definitely one of those New Year's Eves for sure.
Alrighty. And then finally, to bring it full circle, we start the interview, we talked about IWA Mid-South, and that's a hardcore promotion known for its weaponry. What would you say would be the most violent match that you've taken part of in your career so far, from just a gore and a violent standpoint and just an overall chaos situation
that I've taken part in? I myself have never haven't bled very much. I've never bled from the head, that's for sure. I've only ever bled from the mouth, the nose, cuts on my elbow, stuff like that. I think the only time I wrestled somebody who bled a whole lot was Tommy Dreamer. It was when we did the match in Mexico. We had a street fight in Mexico that was amazing. It was so much fun to do, and it was another main event for TV, and it was So I myself haven't been involved in a lot of those crazy gory matches, but I can tell you probably the craziest one that I saw was probably my first time at Cage of Death in 2015. So I debuted April 2015. By the end of April, I was kind of trying to get my foot in the door with CZW. I was going out and doing the dojo shows every week and everything. And when I started coming, when they invited me to come and help out with Ring Crew for one of their main shows, the first one I ever went to was Cage of Death, and I had never seen anything like that in my life. I'd never I didn't go up and I didn't go look at CZW history or anything like that, so I had never seen a Cage of Death. So seeing them set up that structure of madness was and it was a four-way, so I saw AR Fox get powerbombed out of the ring, through a pane of glass, through a table to the outside, blew my mind. I'd never seen anything like that. And then I saw the Cage of Death almost, every year after that for the next like 2 or 3 years. So I've seen some really, really crazy stuff, but I've never done anything beyond like, ladder matches or whatever. The most I've ever bled probably would come from when I got my front tooth. I got hit in the face with a ladder, just dead on, and it hit me right in my front tooth, and it
Chris
like
Jericho'd, man. That's terrible.
yeah, and it bent my front tooth back, and it actually like killed the nerves in it. I had to go get dental surgery to remove the nerves and stuff like that, so the tooth wouldn't die. So my front tooth is just has no nerves in it. So that is probably, I bled a whole lot from my mouth, and then also the scar that I have on my lip from that ladder match in Canada, the Alpha 1 I was talking earlier. Somebody drop kicked a ladder into me, and I guess when they drop kicked it, the hinges that open, one of those hinges just like came out like this and just like sliced my lip.
God.
And it sliced all the way through, like, because like my tongue, I could put my tongue through. It was nuts. And then we were in Canada, so Ricky Shane Page just super glued it shut for me, and we went home. Yeah,
Ricky Shane Page, he had a hell of a match about a month ago, man. Definitely I'd love to see a match with you two, to be honest. I really would.
Yeah, I don't think we ever have.
Awesome. Well, Ace, it was an absolute pleasure. This has been another edition of Thunder or Blunder with the inevitable Ace Austin. This has been your boy, Wild Beezy, baby.